All right, I'm in a fighting mood. I got to tell you that right now. After the Chosen Few Fighting Championships this past weekend, we are going to give you all the information on that, plus a lot more here on the sports news as the headlines are coming up. They are powered by the Red Zone over on Regent Street and also Conant Automotive in Stoughton. The sports news coming up next here on 57 Sports. All right, time now for the headlines. You're looking to the tackles, hits, checks, and dunks that make up the local sports scene. I am Rich Reynolds, and let's hit the ground running. You know, we start today's headlines with good news from a team that has provided little of it in recent years. With their last championship coming in 1971, the Milwaukee Bucks have had their shares of ups and downs with a heavy dose of the Blues, especially over the last decade or so. But a Saturday night victory over the Philadelphia 76ers secured a playoff berth for the Bucks. For Milwaukee, it will be their second playoff appearance in 3 years under head coach Jason Kidd. Well, big news for a native son, as Sun Prairie's Will Butcher was named the winner of the Hobie Baker Award, which is given to the nation's top player in college hockey. By the way, that was Butcher's Friday night. On Saturday night, well, he helped lead Denver to the NCAA title in a win over Minnesota Duluth. Butcher is the first Wisconsin-born player to win the award and the first defenseman to be so honored since 2009. While growing up in Sun Prairie, Butcher played for the Madison Capitals youth program. Speaking of the Madison Capitals, their USHL team wrapped up their third season in Madison at the Coliseum this past weekend. The Caps dropped a pair, being doubled up by Dubuque on Friday and falling in a shootout to Chicago on Saturday. We will get a recap of the 2016-17 Capitals season a little bit later on as Kim Chakos joins us here on the Sports News. And we have reached the time in our headlines to give you a courtesy spoiler alert. Now, if you are planning on watching the Chosen Few Fighting Championships number 11 this weekend on 57 Sports, now would be the time to go ahead and hit the mute button. All right, now some results. As 3 titles were on the line at the Monona Terrace on Saturday night, James Conrad Clark defended his Chosen Few amateur featherweight belt and improved to 10-1 with a round 1 submission win over Devin Bankston. Top-ranked Alex Easy Polizzi is the brand new champion in the light heavyweight division after a round 2 knockout of Rufus Elston that was nothing short of devastating. You got to see it. And in the main event, Alex Gilpin improved to 8-1 and defended his professional featherweight belt with a 4th-round anaconda choke of Nick Compton. You can catch all 13 fights this weekend with Chris Garrity, the UFC's Gerald the Machine Mearshart, Eric Rogers, and me right here on Wisconsin's 57. Trust me, good times and great MMA action. Well, for more information on our headlines and all the 411, you can check out these fine, non-fake news websites. Stick around. We have more interviews than anyone else. That's coming up next on the Sports News right here on 57 Sports. You know, getting outside in the springtime is a wonderful thing, and it means so many different things to so many different people. And one of the great things to get outside and catch a track meet. Yeah, good stuff as we bring in the Stoughton boys and girls head track coaches. We got Trevor Kramalis and Eric Benedict who are joining us right now. And gentlemen, thanks for coming on in. Let's start with the ladies' side of things first. Coach Benedict, what can we expect from your team this season?
I think you're going to expect some really good, strong senior leadership. We have a couple really good runners coming back. Allie William placed 3rd in the 400 last year at our state track meet. And some other seniors, Kendra Halverson, Mylana Botten, and Kylie Lynch. So, you know, it's strong, really good contenders in our conference, and hopefully pull through some state qualifiers as well.
Senior leadership, always good to have on a team. Now, I know, Coach Kramalis, you're pretty high on your team this season. Why so high? Why are the expectations so high for you?
I feel coming off of last year, we set the bar pretty high for ourselves, and we bring back a lot of experience, and with that, a lot of kids are hungry. They want to get to state. They want a conference title. So putting in a lot of good work so far this year, and I think they're really driven, and we're just having really high expectations for them.
Now, for both of you guys, what are some of the events that you think that your teams excel at? I mean, track can encompass so many different things. What events are you really specializing in this year?
I think our middle distance, our 400, 800 runners are both on both sides going to be pretty strong this year, as well as I think field events. I think our jumps, triple and long jump, will be pretty, some strong, very good athletes in them.
Yeah, how about on the boys' side?
Exact same, middle distance. Nathan Mall's coming back. He was at state last year. We have Jackson Hampton. Distance, we have a lot of senior leadership. We have Garrett Model, Tristan Jenny, Owen Rowe. Definitely set the bar high for the younger kids to look up to some seniors. And jumps as well. Jordan DiMendetto, Sean McClary, Dwight Walker, definitely doing well so far this year already.
Now, it's always good to have some high, lofty goals at the beginning of the season. What are some of the goals that you're hoping to track down this year?
On the girls' side, I think we've won 6 straight conference titles. We're looking again to contend for the conference title meet. I think our distance program, coming off a strong cross-country season on the girls' side, I'm really looking forward to some of our younger runners. Anna Wozniak and Margaret Ross, and a freshman Grace Jenny coming in. Should be some very strong runners for us, but I think strong contender in our conference meet.
And on the boys' side, you're going to break that conference title drought?
Yeah. 1981 was the last time the boys have won a conference title. So last year, Oregon had a really solid meet, and we came in a close third with Monona Grove, who this year is coming back stacked as well. So just looking at it, the boys know that they really want to get a conference title under their belt and then get some success in the regional sectional level and get as many kids to state as possible.
So much success with Viking sports, track and field no different. Coaches, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, as we mentioned in the headlines, the 2016-17 Madison Capitals USHL season is in the books. That was it as they wrapped up at the Coliseum this past weekend. We bring in a familiar face now as Kim will talk about that season. And Kim, how do you think 2016-17 went for the Caps?
I think it was a good season. We had a lot of fun. Unfortunately, our wins and losses didn't turn out the way we wanted to. We had a couple more losses than wins, but I think it was a great learning experience for everybody. We had a new coach at the helm, and most importantly, our players developed, and we're sending a bunch off to college, and that's really the point of our program, and we're really excited to see them make that next step in their hockey career.
Yeah, you talk about having a new coach. Garrett Suter was at the helm this past season.
Yes.
So in his first year and taking over the Caps, how do you think he did?
I think he did really well. Garrett's actually the youngest coach in the United States Hockey League right now at the age of 29. He's the youngest coach we've had in team history, and so I think, it took a couple games to get his feet under him, but I think he did a really great job. He really identifies with the players. He's not that far removed from playing himself. He played in the United States Hockey League and played pro, so he really identifies with them, and I think that's what the players really needed this season. So it was great.
Absolutely, and you talk about some of the guys moving on. They're going to start their collegiate careers then. And so who actually played their last game then in the USHL?
Yeah, so Robbie Fosdick played his last game, and Austin Redders, they're still looking for those college commits, but we're really excited to see Cole Haltz go off to Penn State next year, and Eugene Fadeev go off to Ohio State. They're really our veterans and our anchors on our team, so last night was super special for them, and they fought super hard. Robbie Fosdick actually broke a bone in his jaw on Friday night, so he was in the hospital till quite early Saturday morning, but there was no way he was going to miss last night's game.
That didn't happen in that fight on Friday night, was it?
No, not in the fight.
Okay,
not in the fight. He took a puck to the face, unfortunately.
Okay,
but,
that's probably better.
Yeah, I mean, he's our captain, and that's what he does. He shows up every day and leads the team, and he did a great job this season for us.
Absolutely. So those are the guys that are moving on. Who are some of the guys that we can expect to come back?
Yeah, familiar faces that are going to be in Madison for a while. Mick Messner and Daniel Lebedev, they're committed to play at UW-Madison in the 2018-19 season. So those two are the big names that are mixed local. And then we also have Camille Saloha, Alec Bretzman, Ryan Bedurka, tons of young guys, Casey Fitzgerald, Fitzgerald, Connor Peterson, they had their first years with us, likely Noah Weber. So there'll be tons of familiar faces from this past season that'll be trying out in June for the team and more than likely making it. So Caps fans won't be disappointed with not knowing who our team is next year.
Yeah, and a lot of them flashed some talent this year, so that was really good. So we got about 10 seconds left. If people are looking ahead to next season, how do they go about getting tickets?
Yeah, they just call our office at 257-2277 or go to our website at madcapshockey.com. We have a lot of things that we're starting to plan right now for next season, and we can't wait to drop the puck in October.
Off season's ahead. Kim, we'll see you when the season rolls around again.
Sounds great. Can't wait.
A special thank you to Conan Automotive in Stoughton for supporting local athletics.
Welcome back to the sports news. With me now, we have Bob DeMars. He's the director of the Business of Amateurs. Bob, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Ellen. Thanks for having me on the show.
So excited to have you. This is a documentary that's about college athletes' rights, and I'm excited to explore this a little bit more, but what brought about making this documentary for you?
You know, about 5 or 6 years after I started playing football, I had a lot of injuries that were lingering. You know, I had lost ligaments in both my knees. One while I was blocking a kick at Oregon, which was maybe worth it, I don't know. And I started having some of these injuries come back, and I kept thinking, you know, will my injuries one day outweigh the benefit of my education? Is it gonna cost me more in the long run? And there was a guy named Scott Ross, who's the linebacker next to Junior Seau at USC, and my roommate asked if his buddy could crash on the couch for a while. That guy was Scott Ross. That while turned into 7 months. He had just lost his job at the age of 39. He was diagnosed with dementia, and his life was spiraling out of control. And I started looking at it a little bit differently, because people say my injuries, you know, you signed up for that. But when it came to the head injuries, I don't think that any of us signed up for that. And some of the long-term aspects can be detrimental and in some cases deadly.
Absolutely. And now you mentioned that you did play at USC, and this kind of leads into my next question. Did you feel like an athlete-student or a student-athlete?
That's a good question. You know, look, I was an academic person in high school. I had 4.0, I had high test scores, and I had some really good college options, including Stanford and Harvard. And I chose USC because I wanted to study business as an undergrad, and I wanted their film school is the best in the world. And there were times I definitely felt like an athlete student. I had a coach named Ed Ogeron, who's now the head coach at LSU, and he used to cuss me out when I had to leave practice 10 minutes early in the spring to go to a class that was required, that if I was late, I dropped a whole grade point. So these coaches are hired to win. They're not, you know, it's not about an education or graduation, it's about eligibility. They care about keeping people on the field. And I very much felt like I always had to put sports before school.
Right. And now in your opinion, do you think athletes should be paid?
You know, that's the question that a lot of people talk about. The reality is they already are paid. They're paid in the form of a scholarship. But the reality also is that the average scholarship's worth about $27,000 a year. The average football player is worth $150,000 a year. The average basketball player is worth $250,000. At Texas, the average football player is worth $650,000 a year. Now, where does that money go? That money goes to the coach. Now, I think that players should make money off their likeness. That would balance the system out. I mean, right now, the NCAA was founded to prevent commercial exploitation. What they really mean is to prevent others from exploiting the talent that they're commercially exploiting. So in any other walk of life, you can get your true value. I think athletes, if they could trade on their value and their name in that little interim where they actually have that value, I think that's fair.
That's a really interesting point and probably a perspective that a lot of people maybe haven't thought of before because maybe they weren't student athletes. And kind of going back to when you played at USC as well, I know you mentioned some lingering issues and injuries that you still have. Is that still affecting you today?
Yeah, you know, I just had knee surgery about 8 months ago. I was putting my baby into her pillow and a ligament snapped, and because I didn't have a PCL ligament, it was never repaired. It put strain on all my other ligaments. I'm starting to wonder if I should have blocked that kick at Oregon. My right knee is the same thing's gonna happen at some point. And the reality is the long-term mental aspects. I was diagnosed with panic disorder about 3 years ago, actually when I was in the middle of making the film. And these are some of the long-term repercussions of not that just concussions, but subconcussive blows. And panic disorder, it's a misnomer. It sounds like, oh, I panic. But what it is, it's a malfunction of the brain. And I've had dozens of people from across the country since the Business of Amateurs came out and reached out to me and said, I'm not alone, or I have what you have. 6 of my teammates from just when I was playing at USC have come and whispered that in my ear. And it's difficult for athletes that are prideful in nature to admit that there's a deficiency that most people misassume is your identity. So, you know, when people say you signed up for that, I really don't feel. My knees, yeah, this is a violent sport. The long-term mental aspects, which can be Parkinson's for some people, or ALS, or, you know, depression, anxiety, I don't think we signed up for that.
So with your experiences now that you're no longer a player, how do you feel looking back about the school USC?
That's the weird thing. You know, I still love my school. I'm proud of being a Trojan. And that was the mixed emotions that came with making this film. How do I show all these things about student athletes' rights and the things that they deserve, but I still love my school? And I think that ambivalence is growing pains, but one of the things I ask every athlete when I interviewed them, the only thing I could think about is, all right, how did you feel about your school? And every athlete said, I love my school. And a rower from Berkeley, she put it best. She said, you know, this is what we do with things that we care about and things that we love, is we push them to be better. And that's really what this film is.
I love that, and that is a great point, because we can all grow and get better, absolutely.
Right, we do with our friendships and our family. You know, we push things that we care about around us to be better, and that's exactly what this film perspective comes from.
A part of life. And quick before we go here, would you play college football now knowing everything that you do know now?
You know, I wouldn't. You know, I'm hopefully going to have a son one day, and, you know, I'm going to do my best to make sure that my son doesn't play football. I think youth football should be outlawed. Kids' necks aren't strong enough, so their heads go back further, and their brains are still developing and forming. The only reason I would make this, I would do it all again for the purpose of making this film, to let guys out there know that they're not alone, and to be a part of the positive zeitgeist and the movement that we're in right now. But if it wasn't for this documentary, I wouldn't do it again. I'd rather have student loan debt, actually, as crazy as that sounds.
Bob DeMars, he's the director of The Business of Amateurs. You can find more information at thebusinessafamateurs.com. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on the show.
And we'll be back with more sports news right after this.
All right, we welcome in a couple ladies now from the Mad Rollin' Dolls, and we got a veteran of this show in Ginger Snap and a newbie in Lady Hoo Ha. And welcome on in, ladies, and let's talk April 29th. It is the last event of the season. What's all going on that Saturday night?
Yeah, so we're really excited. It's going to be a triple header this time around, and like you mentioned, our championship bout. So we're going to start off with our Rexpo game, which is going to be the Rumblebees versus the Black and Bluebirds. Next up, we'll have our grudge match for third place, which is going to be the Unholy Rollers versus the Reservoir Dolls. And then the much anticipated championship bout, which will have our defending champions, the Quad Squads, playing against the Vaudeville Vixens. We'll wrap it up with an after party at 5 Nightclub.
Very cool. Now tell us a little bit more, if you could. You mentioned the word Rexpo. What's that? Who are the Wreckers?
The Wreckers are the rec league that started in 2010. I was part of the first league of the Wreckers. It is a great place to start if you want to join MRD, and it is also a great place to stay if you don't want the intensity of MRD. That it is a great place to stay.
Hey, you got to start somewhere, and so yeah, cool stuff. So now you guys are playing against each other, I think, for that third place match right there.
Yes,
so,
we are.
Yeah, how are you preparing for that? Is there any animosity? A little bit of that. You guys seem to like each other.
Right now.
We do. Yeah, on the track it's different, but yeah, the Unholy Rollers have been preparing, basically just doing what we always do, playing hard. I'm really excited. Both of our teams had a pretty big draft class of rookies, and it's amazing to see the progress they've made this season. So I'm excited for them to get to go out and strut their stuff.
Now, for the finale and the championship match, now last year Quad Squad won it. They won in the last few seconds. What are you guys expecting in this matchup? Who do you think is going to win it?
Ooh, I think it's going to be tight again this year too. They're both very strong teams. They both have a lot of vets on there, and I think it's hard to determine who's going to win.
Very cool. Now, as far as the championship goes, over the 6 years, has it been dominated by one team, or has there been a mix of teams? What's been the lineage of that and the history behind it?
Well, the Reservoir Dolls have taken the lead most of the time. They have won the championship 6 times out of 12.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's a pretty good run. And then once it's over, what do you guys do for the summer? What happens in the off season for you?
Yeah, so a lot of us will continue skating. We do have a travel team, the Dairyland Dolls, and they continue competing throughout the summer at various tournaments. We also run a summer boot camp, so for folks that are still newer to roller derby, taking advantage of that to share our skills, and then just resting our bodies and preparing for next year.
Excellent stuff. Ladies, thank you for joining us. Hopefully everyone will come out and see you April the 29th. Thanks again.
Thank you.
A special thank you to Conan Automotive in Stoughton for supporting local athletics.
Hey, thankfully, as spring has sprung here in Wisconsin, spring has sprung, something like that, and the weather warms up, it means, unfortunately for some people, the end of the hockey season. And so we talked about the Caps winding down. We also got some more hockey players in right now, and they are joining us from Ice Spirit Hockey. We got Kate Helmick, who is the head coach. We also have Abby and Ava, a couple players for Ice Spirit Hockey. And welcome on in, ladies. And Coach, we're going to start with you, and for people not familiar with what you're doing, what exactly is Ice Spirit Hockey?
Well, thank you for having us today. Ice Spirit Hockey is an all-girls hockey association serving Middleton, West Madison, and Verona, those communities on that side of town. Primarily girls ages 6 to 15, and really all experience levels. You could have been playing for 10 years and have been a member from the club from the start, or you could be your very first time on skates. We welcome all levels of girls really to have fun and enjoy the game.
Yeah, and I love how the game has grown. I get to do PA sometimes for Wisconsin women's hockey, and I love to see that there's so much enthusiasm for girls hockey and women's hockey in the area. So wonderful that you guys are doing that. And girls, as we talk about hockey, what do you like most about playing hockey?
What I like most about hockey is that it's a physical and mental challenge that requires a lot of hard work. And since I'm really competitive, it gives me a chance to compete in success.
Yeah, like what Abby said. And for me, it's like the emotions also. It's kind of this whole roller coaster. You could be up 3-0 and on the top of the world, and in 5 minutes you could be tied, and trying to break that tie can get really nerve-wracking and things like that.
Absolutely. The most unsafe lead in hockey is a 2-goal lead, right? I think that's what they talk about. So talk about some of the highlights that you girls have had while playing for Ice Spirit.
Every year that I've played for Ice Spirit so far, which is 5 years, we've made it to state, where we get to play against all the other top teams in the state.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been playing hockey for 5 years, but I moved here just a few years ago, so this is only my second year playing Ice Spirit. And so we've gone to state those 2 years. That's definitely a highlight for me. And then a highlight recently was I had ACL surgery and meniscus surgery, so that it was, and my doctor said you'll have 12 months and if you might be able to play. And so I kind of told them, well, I want to play sooner and I want to be in the state tournament if we make it this year. And so I finished PT and everything in 7 months, so I was able to share those moments with my team on the ice during the state tournament.
Excellent. Quick rehabbing. Now, girls, quickly, we got about 10 seconds here. Why would you encourage other girls to play hockey?
Girls hockey is a great secondary sport to play because it's a good cardio workout and it gives you good physical and mental strength for other sports.
Yeah, and you make lifelong friends throughout the whole experience, and it's just great for everybody.
Terrific stuff. I appreciate you being here. Good luck as you continue on your path down hockey. We appreciate it, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brought to you by Conan Automotive, taking care of you by taking care of your family's car.
All right, a big thank you to all of our guests that were able to join us this week on the Sports News. Big thank you to you for watching as well. And of course, to our fine sponsors that keep us on the air each and every week, including Conan Automotive in Stoughton and the Red Zone over on Regent Street. We will see you next time on the Sports News right here on Wisconsin's 57 Sports.